Okay, good morning on Declaration Day. We're not too far from it. I wanted to get this out on Ybit. Both Ybit and Coney had some interesting activity. Ybit just added, they got shares bought into and they added a lot more money to the kitty as if they needed it, right? I mean, it's the same old story. They got the liability on the other side, but let me jump in here and show it to you. So on the activity sheet, they bought 2,000 calls on their 35 synthetic, and then they sold short 2,000 puts. And then, as you know, a lot of times in the triple hat play, they then put on 2,000 referred to as covered calls, but naked calls. And they used the 22 strike. So I'll show you that first, and then I'll go over and show you the synthetic. So you can see here that their share count went up 275,000. That's like 12.64%, right? Actually, this number needs that's the only one I didn't update. Everything else is updated. And okay. So anyway, I wanted you to see that because that's a lot percentage-wise on the shares. So let's go back to June. So that got them 46,000. Not a lot, right? Versus these much higher counts. So altogether now they're looking at 18,000 or something. Look at these calls. 7,350, 2,100, 73.45, and 2,000. So they've, and believe it or not, yesterday they did that. I think about it. They got a half, a short day today, a holiday on Thursday, and then a full normal day on Friday. So call it 1.5 days. But the underlying, and let's talk about that. So what did the respective underlying and Ybit do? So the underlying, BITO, went down 2.08. Now, remember, they already had their ex-dividend on the first. That's why they actually moved up quite a bit. As I mentioned, they paid $1.50. So that took them down to 21.01, and they ended up closing the day at 22.15. But when it gets measured against the old number, it's down. Okay, and we went up 2.59, and then we just had more transactions here. And then come on 7/2, money flowed in, right? So they put new positions on. So they had like 7,700,000 in more cash, and so they deployed this. Let's go take a look at the 35, and this is what they did. So they bought for a penny. Remember, they're way out in BITO on that. That's why it's a double-edged sword. They collect a lot of money, but they have a liability. But they had rolled their 36 out to August 2nd, right? So look at how far below it is 36%. But when you consider it's BTC and it's August 2nd, anything's possible, right? So they got 30 days, they got a calendar month. So this put, you can see the difference here, almost 2.8? Well, it really did put 2.8. So 2,860,000, right? Because we spent 2,000 and we collected. So that in the 46,000 on the puts, on the naked call that they wrote. Let's go look at the weekly. So now in total, I'm showing 16,795 contracts. They're pretty close, right? Look at this, 2169, and not quite half are at 22. What's Bitcoin doing in the market? No, I can't really see it without moving around multiple pages. I won't worry about that. It had been down around 61 too when I was looking at it, down from mid 62s. So let's take a look at further look at the holdings. So this gives you an idea, and then in the holdings you can see already this week, even though we're getting close, we've captured, 45% of the weekly total. So they look good on their weekly. And what else is in the holding? Now, this is always what I bring up to you guys. So here's their synthetic, right, up to date, 18,795. Let me check that. Why is I'm showing, 18,795. Okay. And it's 8.5 cents, right? Because they got out till August 2nd, but they're way underneath, $22 versus 35. So every time they buy a call and sell a put, they collect a bunch of money, but they build this debt level, right? So when I show you how much cash, they have like 22 million or 19 million. I'll wait till I go over there. And the problem is always guessing what they're going to pay out. Everybody has a theory, or Jay said this, or they intend to do this. And the truth is, it's not an exact science, guys. It's just, you look and you learn. I've done this long enough that I see a propensity to do this sometimes, but then they surprise me and they do something else. So there's some validity to, if all else fails, they'll pay the IV, right? Well, crypto IVs are typically always higher, right? So this IV is, 60, 70-ish. And this is where we closed. We closed at 1762, and fair value was 1745. But you guys can see that. Anybody that watched Tesla on their earnings, and, they flew up. And yet, look at Tesla. It's up. I mean, I went long on Tesla because after I saw what they were doing at their annual meeting and everything, and I looked at the chart and studied the chart and said, okay, I think it's bottom. So I moved in, and it was around 1560 when I bought it. And now it's 17. And I think it has a lot further to go, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't retrace and all those kinds of things. So, it's kind of sad to see people, and Yieldmax got a black eye, guys. Sorry, I'm going into that a little bit, but there's a lot of people out there that think this is just, NAV reduction university, that it's all pre-planned and they're just going to return your capital. It's nonsense, really. And I've got some videos coming out and some more fact-finding and things I want to do on that. But I just want you guys to know, you clearly can buy you can clearly buy a stock at the wrong time, right? It's all about the underlying. That's why I tell you guys, and I know other people have, don't just chase the yield. I mean, everybody looks at it. The stock market's in NVIDIA right now. Everybody wants to pile into NVIDIA. And wouldn't it be ironic if NVIDIA went down 20% over the near term? I'm not saying it did. It could just as well go up another 10 or 15%, but it could very easily go down 20%. It has been going down lately. So again, not a great stock, right? But not something that's going to do another 20x, right? A stock that maybe in 5 years goes up 2 to 3 times at best. There's a lot of better buys out there. But is it the leader in the stock market right now in the hardware aspect of AI? Absolutely. Will its margins get eroded? Yes, as competition comes in, right? So never, never, never fall in love with a stock. Done it myself, seen it. It's the worst way in the world to invest emotionally, okay? Just look at the chart and see what it's doing. Look at the moving averages. Look at the resistance points. Look at support, okay? So NVIDIA could easily go to $100, $97 to $100, and probably will. It also will very likely be back up around 140, to all-time high, split adjusted. So that's the kind of volatility you can expect. These are crazy times and crazy markets. But just understand that, right? So it's not just a walk in the park and I see it's paying a great yield. I mean, look at it, what it did in 2023. It was paying 40, 50, 60, 70 cents for quite a while last year. And then it moved into its upper tier and you know, was up 100 or 70%. I don't have the chart in front of me. So I always just say, try to pick a reasonable time where you're bullish. Don't just chase the yield because you can get NAV reduction. All right, so on Ybit, let me keep this going. This is the issue, right? They have a $26 million bill to pay. They have a paper loss. So if BTC takes off before August 2nd, then they're going to be fine, right? They'll catch up, and it certainly could. Again, it's like any stock. I don't know. I'm bullish long term. I think after the halving, it takes 6 months usually before you really see the big upsurge in BTC, and I think everybody was expecting it. It kind of got part of the upsurge prior to the halving with all the announcement of the ETF funds. So anyway, that liability exists. Look on the weeklies, captured 21%, 69%, 73%, 13%, right? So they could buy everything back for 272, which represents they've collected 12.64. I pointed that out early. Now, look down here, 26 million, right? And this is really 2 now. I updated the amounts. I care more about the amounts than I do about the dates. So 26, previously it was 22, 20, 22. So, you know, it hasn't been real exciting. I'll be perfectly honest. Bitcoin's been a big yawn, right, lately. It also happens to be the highest performing asset over the last couple of years. It makes NVIDIA look puny, right? The highest performing asset in all market classes over the last few years. So don't think that Bitcoin can't really run. And it will again. You know, anybody that tells you they know what it's going to do tomorrow or next week, I think is fooling you because we really don't. All right, so I showed you what they did here, put money in the kitty. So let's wrap it up and go over to payouts. And here we are. Look at this thing. Now, with the share count, it took it down. When I first calculated it prior to updating the share count, this was like 835. So they've collected 75 cents and $8, if you will, in total, right? This is all the money, and this is the portion of the money that's the weekly calls. So they could go out and just pay the weekly calls, right, and pay us 75 cents. But to me, do you want this to grow? You're up against a lot of competition out there. At times, I own Coney, Misty, and this, and 3 or 4 other funds, right? So I'm diversified, but even I feel like sometimes I'm too much in crypto, you know. But I'd say asset-wise, it's, you know, 50%, and that's a lot. But I don't, you know, if you ask me, big tech is just as overvalued. I see people raving about, you know, YMAG versus YMAX. Well, there's a reason YMAG has done so well, because all the money is flowing into the big 6, right? And now with Tesla starting to move, it's flowing into the Mag 7. But again, nothing stays the same. If you invest in that theme, you will not do well. When I was in my 20s and I first had a 401k and they were just rolling that concept out, I was young, didn't know a lot, and I was like, okay, well, I got to pick these funds, right? I don't remember the fund family, whether it was a Vanguard or a Fidelity or who it was. And so I said, well, let me see what they did last year. And so I looked, and there was this fund that was up 135%. I said, wow. I want in on that, right? And I bought that. You know what its performance was the next year? Minus 45. Had I known what I knew even 5 years later, I wouldn't have made that mistake. But I see people do that all the time. They go all in on NVIDIA, you know, thinking that NVIDIA is just going to the moon. Guys, it's already gone to the moon, okay? I'm not saying it doesn't have any upside. But the chances of it doubling and tripling again in the next year, I hate to tell you, are very, very, very unlikely, despite all the hype. So it's a good stock, it's a good company, it'll be around. Maybe not in 10 years, who knows? I've seen the hardware cycle change a lot. The next cycle for AIP and all of making companies use AI besides ChatGPT is the ontology, the large language model providers. That's where all the money is going to be spent as they finish putting in their hardware infrastructure. And NVIDIA owns that hardware. Sorry, I keep saying NVIDIA. NVIDIA owns that hardware infrastructure right now, but competition is moving in and aggressive. Okay, so that's what I got. Look at this, $8, and then, you know, altogether, and 75 cents is in short call. I think it's a shame if they don't pay $1.19, okay, which gives them the exact yield that they had last month, because I plugged in the price. Now, it was $1.37 because this price was 19 something. Okay, that's what I got for you guys. So we should at any point now get our declaration. And Coney surprised me. You need to see the Coney update later. Not necessarily good, guys. They rolled, and that's, you know, they got $1.14. So they might pay $1.50, but it kind of took the wind out of the sails of $2, in my opinion. So that's forthcoming. Okay, guys, have a good one. Bye. Again, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Have a great day ahead. Bye.